They were wrong about intermittent fasting. They told you that intermittent fasting slows your metabolism. They were wrong. They told you that intermittent fasting causes you to lose muscle mass and causes blood sugar imbalances, cravings, overeating, and weight gain. I'm telling you, they were wrong. In fact, intermittent fasting is one of the most powerful ways to improve fat burning, blood sugar stability, and insulin sensitivity. And in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly what happens on an hour-by-hour basis as you go through this sort of fast. And at the end, I'm gonna go through my top strategies to get the most out of your fast and answer the most frequently asked questions that I get about fasting. Now, I just finished up a 30-hour fast, so more than one day, and it's pretty amazing what actually happens in your body hour by hour as you go through this fast. And 30 hours, pretty remarkable things happen. And it's quite amazing what's actually taking place in your body. So let's start. 12 hours, right? This is always what I say the minimum should be between your last meal and your first meal. So if you ate dinner at 8 p.m., you shouldn't eat again anything with calories until 8 a.m. the next day. That 12 hours allows your body to undergo a full gut and liver detox cycle. This is really critical. You need to clear out bad bacteria and different endotoxins out of your gut. Your liver needs to deactivate all these circulating toxins in our bloodstream, and it needs time away from meals in order to do this. 12 hours overnight gives your body time for that gut and liver detox cycle. If you're not doing that, you are overwhelming your body with toxins. Guess where those toxins are gonna go? They're gonna get stored in your fat cells, particularly in your visceral fat that surrounds your liver, your heart, your pancreas, and sputs out inflammatory compounds. That visceral fat chokes off blood supply to those vital organs. You've got to start by giving yourself 12 hours between your last meal and your first meal. Again, that's the minimum. Everybody can do that. Even most pregnant women can do 12 hours between their last meal and their first meal. Now, 14 to 16 hours. Okay, this is kind of the next step for somebody that I recommend fasting for. Typically not pregnant women or young children, okay? But for an adult, an average adult, 14 to 16 hours is amazing. And that is basically like if you finish dinner at, let's say, 6 p.m., you wouldn't eat again until 8 a.m. or 10 a.m. the next day. What happens when you go 14 to 16 hours is your insulin lowers and your blood sugar lowers. So when you eat a meal, your insulin goes up, and it starts coming down, several hours after your meal, and then eventually it's gonna go down below a certain threshold, and that allows your body to start really burning fat. And typically that's gonna be in that 14 to 16 hour window. That's when insulin gets low enough to where you really start burning fat for fuel. So now you're in fat burning mode, okay? Then you get to 16 to 20 hours, kind of this range of 16 to 20 hours. You're burning fat and you're also producing something called ketones, which I'm going to talk about later. And between that 16 to 20 hours, you start to see a shifting in the gut microbiome. So the primary feeders, and these primary feeders, some of them are good, okay? They live above the gut mucosa. So you have your intestinal lining, right above that you have your gut mucosa, and then you've got these primary feeding bacteria that live above the mucosa. Those primary feeders, if we're consistently eating, we're feeding those primary feeders and we can overfeed them and they can drown out the secondary feeders. The secondary feeders are the kinds of bacteria that are associated with really healthy metabolic function, right? That's gonna be things like Akkermansia, mucinophilia, and Faecalibacterium prusitznii, which really help with anti-aging, with longevity, they help basically produce certain postbiotics that strengthen the mitochondria in the intestinal lining. But if we're consistently eating and we're not taking this period of time between meals, we overfeed the primary feeders and they grow and they drown out the secondary feeders. So as we get into that 16 to 20 hour fast, we start to basically shed, almost like pulling out weeds. So we pull out a good amount of these primary feeders, which allows the environment, the ecosystem in the gut, for the secondary feeders to thrive. And they produce really key postbiotics, things like butyric acid and urolithin A, that strengthen the mitochondria in our intestines. And we create stronger, healthier mitochondria in the intestines. We also lower something called LPS endotoxins, lipopolysaccharides. This is the outer cell wall of gram-negative bacteria, and that is released into our system, particularly when we have a very weak intestinal lining. These bacteria release, as they die off, they release this toxin. And that toxin needs to be bound by things like, for example, bile, right, in our system and pulled out of the body. It should be being excreted through our feces, right, as we move our bowels. However, if we're not doing some level of intermittent fasting, that endotoxin can build up, get into the bloodstream, and drive more inflammation throughout the body. In particular, endotoxin is notorious for breaking down the blood-brain barrier and creating more brain inflammation, leading to things like depression, anxiety, irritability, trouble learning, trouble concentrating, increasing our risk of neurodegenerative conditions like dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease. So we need to lower that LPS endotoxin release, and doing something like a 16 to 20 hour fast on a semi-regular basis, at least, let's say 2 to 3 days a week, will help lower that, okay? And that's really key. Now, 20 to 24 hours, we talked about ketones. Ketones are really powerful. You see, fatty acids, most of our cells can use fat for fuel. And particularly when we're practicing intermittent fasting on a regular basis, our cells become better fat burners. Our mitochondria get upregulated and healthier, and they're able to burn fat and use it as a great energy source to produce ATP, cellular energy. However, the fatty acids, we can't get them across the blood-brain barrier. So our brain cells, our neurons, can't use them for energy. And this is where the liver will take fatty acids and produce ketones. Those ketones are water-soluble molecules. They're smaller than fatty acids. They get up, go across the blood-brain barrier, and in the brain, they actually are what we call epigenetic modulators. So they modulate the genetic expression in the brain, and that's great because they reduce brain inflammation. They shut down inflammation in the brain. They also help to increase the amount of mitochondria in the neurons, which allow the neurons to function better. They also increase something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. BDNF is like miracle grow for the brain. It helps enhance neuroplasticity, synaptic. It helps enhance these little gaps called synapses between the neurons. And those synapses give the brain greater flexibility of thought, greater creativity. In fact, researchers at Stanford, they did an autopsy on Einstein's brain after he died. He donated his body to science. They looked at his brain and they studied it and compared it to similar people of his age when he passed away and similar body size and brain size. And they thought, what was different about Einstein's brain than the average adult around the same body size? And what they found was that they had roughly the same amount of neurons, but Einstein had twice as many synapses, these little gaps between the neurons. Okay, those gaps give us greater flexibility of thought, greater creativity, greater emotional resilience, right? Our ability to adapt to stressors in our life. And so ketones, when we get ketones elevated in our bloodstream, that signals that BDNF, which gives us greater synaptic function, right? So we start to develop Einstein's brain in a sense as we do that. Now, as we continue this fast, like I did, where I went to 30 hours, roughly in that 24 to 36 hour period, we get this entire intestinal cell reset. This is amazing. We actually our intestinal lining is constantly replacing itself every 3 to 5 days. And as we're undergoing this fast, we get rid of a high number of these bad inferior intestinal lining cells. And this is where people get leaky gut, right? And chronic inflammation is they have a buildup of really weak, poorly resilient cells, right? That have poor functioning mitochondria that make up their intestinal lining. So when one of these bad cells dies, it's replaced by a new bad cell. Right? It's not replaced by a healthy cell. In fact, they get a buildup of senescent or zombie cells in their intestines that don't function well. And they're very permeable and they allow for large food particles and pathogens and toxins to get into the bloodstream, driving up inflammation. What we want are very strong, stress-resilient intestinal cells. And when we do a 24 to 30 hour or even 36 hour fast, that's what happens. We start to get rid of these bad cells and replace them with new, healthy, stress-resilient stem cells. And those stem cells come in there, they repair and replace the intestinal lining cells, and they create more resilience, less leaky gut, less toxins and inflammatory compounds being released into the bloodstream. That is key. Also, we get this huge rise in growth hormone. In fact, a 24-hour fast on average will increase somebody's growth hormone level between 500 to 1400%. And one study actually showed that it increased growth hormone levels up to 2000% in men and 1300% in women. Now, why is that important? Because growth hormone is our quintessential anti-aging hormone. It helps us burn fat. It helps preserve lean body tissue. It helps to strengthen collagen tissue for better joints, better skin health, right? Better intestinal lining. And it helps to reset our immune system so we get less inflammatory activity and a more targeted immune response, helping get rid of different infections without having, the repercussion of too much inflammation in our body. That's what we want. So good growth hormone release is critical for a healthy body and for healthy aging. In fact, a lot of people will go out and they get, injections of growth hormone. They spend thousands of dollars getting these because growth hormone is considered the fountain of youth. And in order to get enough, people are gonna go in and get injections and spend $10,000 to get 1000% growth hormone than what their body is naturally producing. However, if you were to do a 24-hour fast, you are gonna, on average, produce somewhere between 500 to 1400%. That means on average, you're gonna get equivalent of that $10,000 growth hormone injection. And in a natural way, the synthetic growth hormone can have a lot of problems, right? It can actually cause you to produce less growth hormone over time and create a dependency. Whereas when you produce it naturally, it's a natural agent that your body knows how to use and work with, and your body knows how to get the optimal results with it. So you're gonna secrete the amount your body really needs to do the repair process that your body really needs in order to thrive, in order to repair the brain, the joints, in order to repair the gut lining, in order to reset the immune system. You're gonna secrete what you need to get the results that your body needs in order to thrive. And that's the key there. So really powerful stuff that happens when you're intermittent fasting. They lied to you. They said it wasn't good for you, but it really is one of the most powerful things you can do. Now, here are some of the most common questions I get when it comes to fasting. Number one, what can you drink or eat during a fast? Well, really to get these results, number one, you don't eat. Number two, you do drink, okay? I'm not recommending a dry fast here. That could be dangerous for somebody that's a beginner. So what I do recommend is drinking lots of water, and you can take a pinch of salt, right? Just good sea salt, put it on your tongue or put it in the water and drink that. You can also use an unflavored electrolyte drink as well, like electrolyte powder that has maybe magnesium and sodium and potassium in it. And that can help you have great mental clarity while you're fasting. In fact, while you're fasting, your insulin levels go down. Insulin, not only is it our fat storage hormone, but also it helps us retain sodium. And when insulin goes down, we excrete sodium. We actually pee it out, and therefore we lose a lot of blood volume, and we actually need some sodium. And sometimes our blood pressure goes down too much, and we might feel lightheaded. So having a little bit of salt actually helps you during a fast, helps you feel more energized, be able to perform better. So that's always a good idea. And again, you can drink water, you can have herbal teas, you can have black coffee, okay? I just don't recommend calories during this sort of fast. That's always best, but you can drink black coffee, water with electrolytes, and herbal teas. Can you exercise during a fast? Yes, you can definitely do low intensity exercise. I recommend walking, doing things that are low intensity. And then if you're gonna do high intensity exercise, whether it's high intensity interval training or resistance training, my recommendation is do it before you end your fast. Let's say, you're gonna end your fast and eat a meal 2 hours from now. That would be like a great time to work out. So within, let's say, 2 hours of breaking the fast, or an hour of breaking the fast. After you exercise, go ahead, hydrate your body, and then see if hunger comes about. Once you do start getting hungry, then you go ahead and break your fast. You don't have to do it immediately. If your body allows you, if you feel great, if you don't feel hunger or have cravings, you can fast longer. You can fast 2-3 hours longer, and that's totally fine. And then break your fast with a good high protein, real food-based meal, right? That's high in protein. You should get at least 30 to 50 grams of protein. You should make sure you got some healthy fats on board from grass-fed organic animal products, from things like high polyphenol extra virgin olive oil, avocados, grass-fed butter, or eggs. Those all have healthy fats. Make sure you're eating colorful fruits and vegetables. It's a great way to break the fast. And then finally, I always get a question, can you take medications? Can you take supplements on this sort of fast? In general, if there are certain medications, you should always talk with your doctor about that. I know there are some medications that you need to take with meals. Because this is roughly like just a little bit over a day, like a day and a quarter, it's the kind of fast that, if you were to have to take a medication with a meal, let's say you did that at breakfast on Monday, and then you fasted until lunch on Tuesday. It's totally fine to, wait until lunch on Tuesday to take the next dose of the medication. But of course, always good to consult with your doctor about that. Do you take supplements, in your fasting period? I really don't recommend supplements. I don't think they're that necessary. Maybe electrolytes, maybe magnesium, that can be really helpful. Maybe an adaptogenic herb like a ashwagandha or rhodiola, that can be helpful. To help your body deal with stress, counteract the negative effects of stress. That may be something you take, but avoid things like vitamin D, multivitamins, B vitamins, zinc. You don't want to take that unless you're eating a meal, right? Those are supplements you want to take with a meal. Omega-3 fatty acids would be another one. Creatine. You don't need those while you're fasting, right? Take those with meals and not while you're fasting. So hopefully that helps. Now you guys realize it's really powerful what happens when you do a 24 to 30 hour fast. I hope you go ahead and get started. Please leave us a note in the comments on this YouTube video or wherever you're listening to this. If you're listening to it via podcast, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review. And in that, you can actually leave a comment and let us know your experience with this kind of fasting as well. Thanks so much for doing that, and we'll see you in a future video. Be blessed.